Welcome to A Deeper Dive, where you, the viewers, can follow along with the guests on Iyanla FIX My Life and do the work in your own life. In our season premiere, you met Neffe, aka Neffe, the gutter snipe, and her husband Shelby, aka Soullow. These guests represent so many people who write me because their relationships are in trouble. And the guests have done some deep soul-searching work and had some revelations that will hopefully move them into a better state of being in their marriage and in their lives. However, like you, they must do the work. A fix doesn't happen because I spend 2 or 3 days with the person. The fix happens because the guests do the work. And that's what will happen when you do your work. And this is what I want you to do for yourself, because it's exactly what I did with Neffe and Soullow. First of all, identify the problem. That's number 1. Number 2, acknowledge your role and responsibility for the problem. In a relationship, both partners are responsible. And then finally, 3, commit to a new way of thinking and being so that you can resolve the issues that you're having. So whether you are in a relationship or not, this was a powerful episode. So let's dive in. Now, what you, the viewers, can do at home to practice the skills that you saw in the show is to begin to think about what obstacles you currently face in your relationships and where you see similar behaviors that you saw the guests demonstrate in the show, and also think about your childhood and past experiences. So let's start here. Neffe and Soullow have what is an unhealthy codependent relationship. It's unhealthy because of the way they see each other, speak to each other, the way they hold each other, and because one does not know or respect everything about the other person. It's an unhealthy relationship because both partners came into the relationship with a lot of baggage, meaning unhealed and in some cases unacknowledged pain and trauma from their childhood. Now, it's a codependent relationship because both partners are expecting something from the other partner that they did not get at home as children. But we're going to talk more about that later. So here's the takeaway. You will repeat the pathology of your childhood and your past until you acknowledge it, heal it, or neutralize it. What you felt and saw in your first home, you will repeat in all your homes until you make sense of it and heal it. Why? Because human beings are creatures of habits, and even bad habits. You know, as we saw with Neffe and Shelby, in unhealthy relationships, you'll often see extremes rather than balance. Here you see Neffe coming across as incredibly selfish, while Shelby comes across as incredibly selfless. Now, that's not to say he didn't have his stuff. He had his stuff too. But neither selfishness or selflessness is healthy for a relationship. In order for a relationship to be healthy, both parties need to strike a sense of personal balance and personal responsibility. And you've got to be able to see your partner as an equal, not as deficient or needy. So let's look at Act 1. When Neffe and Shelby were discussing what they wanted from our time together. And what I recognized, and you probably saw it too, both of them seem to be living a very different experience of the relationship. This is what I call you are having a relationship with me all by yourself. Neffe saw things one way, and Shelby saw them an entirely different way. And when they could not agree about what was going on, they argued. This represents that neither one of them truly understood the heart of the other. And it's an indication that not only of a breakdown of the romance, but a disconnection from the foundation on which the relationship is built. Note to file. A relationship must be built on a foundation that serves the needs of both partners. And this relationship was built on Neffe's needs and Shelby's need to rescue her the way he could not rescue his mother. That is never going to work. Let's move on to Act 2, where I talked to Shelby about his childhood experiences. And can I tell you this? When that man put his head in my bosoms and started to weep, all the hair on my arms stood up. Oh my God. You see, What love looks like to us as a child determines where we go and what we look for in love as an adult. Particularly those who feel unfulfilled by the love they received as children. They will seek out a similar source as they grow. Remember Shelby's statement. He said that Neffe reminded him of home, and home was chaotic and unstable. Need I say more about that? No. Let's go on to Act 3. Neffe made a valiant attempt to avoid the issue of losing her son and Shelby's earlier statement that he would rather be dead than go back to Neffe and his children in a hotel room. You see, avoidance is a common coping mechanism for pain. But running from our traumatic experiences, it never works because they're going to come up again and again and again and again, no matter who you are or where you are. If you've got stuff that you haven't dealt with, it's going to come up again. So in Act 3, we saw Neffe trying to avoid things that she really needed to heal and neutralize. Heal or neutralize. Heal means to make whole again, to bring back to a state of wellness. And to neutralize means you see it, you felt it, you understand it, and you no longer have any heat on it. Let's move to episode Act 4. Here you saw Shelby have a total meltdown. I sent Neffe off to be with herself, but here is what I want you to know. No matter how unhealthy or dysfunctional your life and behavior can be or has been, there's always something healthy within us that guides us toward help. That's why Neffe and Shelby came. You know, we may silence that in moments, we may ignore it in other moments, but something resilient lives within us. And that something wants to heal. That something wants to seek out help. So tapping into that energy makes the process of healing and growing and learning so much more effective. So when you look at the guests and you see where they are, know that there's a healthy muscle operating. And that's why they came to me in the first place. And I think they're so courageous. Now, as I always say on the Deeper Dive, there's so much that you don't see. There are conversations and revelations and interactions that take place that never make it to the screen. And that's what makes this process so powerful. So after many conversations with both Neffe and Soullow, in Act 5, this is where we deal with their childhood trauma. And childhood trauma creates detrimental and destructive personality traits. When the trauma of our past remains unresolved in adulthood, those traits become our dominant character. And Neffe had become a character. She was struggling to live in her life and to find Neffateria. So to function in the world more productively. When they come from a history and background of trauma, many people split their personality. One personality that they present to the world, and a second one that they hide or protect. And we see with Neffe that there are distinctions between Neffe and Neffateria. You can see it in the way she speaks and in the way she behaves. And finally, for many of people, particularly men, our greatest fear is that we are inadequate. That's why we have a tendency to hear any criticism or feedback as an attack. And when we feel attacked, we become defensive. And that defensiveness is what keeps us from taking or having good relationships or learning from our experiences. So the key to neutralizing defensiveness and becoming a better listener is that you gotta feel safe. Everyone has the right to feel safe in their relationships with other people. However, that's a difficult thing to do when your safety was shattered as a child, when your safety was shattered by trauma, when your safety was shattered by instability. You never feel safe, so you never let your guard down, which makes it impossible for you to ever let anyone in. And if they come in, you become defensive. And that's what we saw with Neffe. So what are your takeaways in the work you can get from this episode? First, be mindful of how the relationship you are in today mirrors the adult relationships you witnessed as a child. And once you become aware, take inventory of how you are behaving in that relationship. Number 2, get clear about your baggage. We all have baggage, all of us. But what are you holding your partner responsible to do or be because of an unmet need? I want to encourage you to watch my R-Spot episode on the relationship you are having with yourself. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. And you'll get a notice when we put up the R-Spot episodes. And I put up one every Tuesday, 2 o'clock. And every week we examine relationship issues at the R-Spot. Finally, if you're in a relationship that's in breakdown or breaking down, where you are happy sometimes, sad most of the time, where you and your partner fail to tell the truth about what you want and what you need, where you fight and argue more than you kiss and hug, where conditions and circumstances of the relationship are about struggling to stay where you are rather than move ahead, please, I want to encourage you to get some help. Here's an excellent resource. It's a book by Gay and Kathleen Hendricks, The 9 Steps to Conscious Loving. It's going to tell you how to break dysfunctional patterns in relationships. So next week I continue my work with Neffe and Shelby, and we'll see Neffe's evolution into Neffateria, and it's going to be good. And you're going to see my on-camera breakdown where I horrified my own self. So be sure to tune in, not to see my breakdown, but because it's going to be a good show. Have a great week. I'll see you soon.